Ladies, gentlemen, brothers and sisters, a woman who enjoys solitude holds unshakable power. This kind of woman doesn't run from herself. She doesn't need a crowd to feel important or a relationship to feel whole. She's not afraid of silence because she's learned how to hear herself in it. In a world that constantly pushes noise, distractions, and connections for the sake of filling emptiness, she's made peace with stillness. She has looked around at the chaos and chosen calm. She has looked within and decided that who she is by herself is not only enough, it's powerful. Solitude is not loneliness to her. It's clarity. It's an environment where she can sort through her thoughts without the pressure of performance. It's where she reclaims her energy, resets her mind, and sharpens her purpose. The strength of this woman lies in her ability to confront herself with honesty. She faces her flaws, acknowledges her fears, and instead of hiding from them, she works through them. Alone, with intention, with grace, with grit. While others may seek constant company to escape their thoughts, she embraces hers. She knows that silence has a language. It speaks truths we often drown out with noise. She listens, she learns, and from that learning she grows, she becomes. Because solitude doesn't isolate her, it refines her. She knows how to comfort herself, how to motivate herself, and how to challenge herself without anyone clapping in the background. That kind of self-reliance, that kind of inner strength, it's unshakable. She doesn't chase moments to be seen. She creates moments that matter. She's not performing for social approval or begging to be understood. She's walking a path that's real, even if it's quiet, even if no one notices. Because she's not doing it for recognition, she's doing it for herself. That kind of woman becomes a force, because her power doesn't depend on others. It's anchored in her values, in her discipline, in her decision to rise no matter who's watching. People may call her distant. They may misunderstand her silence as weakness, her independence as arrogance, her peace as passivity. But she knows the truth. She knows that people fear what they can't define, and she refuses to be defined by shallow expectations. She doesn't fit into the boxes society builds for women: to be soft but never too strong, nurturing but never too independent, seen but not heard. She has stepped outside all of that. She's written her own rules in the quiet of her own mind. Time alone has taught her how to protect her energy. She doesn't give her attention to drama. She doesn't get pulled into chaos that doesn't belong to her. She chooses her battles wisely, speaks with purpose, and walks with intention. That kind of focus doesn't come from a life full of noise. It comes from choosing to unplug, to go inward, and to understand herself better than anyone else possibly could. She knows what she stands for, and that makes her impossible to manipulate. Because here's the thing: when a woman has learned to sit with her own soul, she becomes dangerous in the best way. She won't stay in places where she is disrespected. She won't accept love that costs her peace. She won't shrink to fit in rooms that can't hold her truth. She walks away from what doesn't serve her, not because she's cold, but because she's clear. Her alone time gave her that clarity. It stripped away the distractions and let her see her worth, raw and unfiltered. That's why you can't rattle her with silence. She's made a home in it. You can't threaten her with solitude. That's where she grows. You can't tempt her with surface-level attention. She's seen what it's like to be whole without it, and because of that, she moves differently. She doesn't rush, she doesn't settle, she doesn't chase. She chooses. When she steps into a room, she carries the weight of all the hours she spent building herself in quiet. There's a stillness in her that commands respect, not because she demands it, but because it's impossible not to feel it. That calm, that presence, that silent confidence, it's rooted in the time she spent facing herself when no one else was around. That's what makes her unshakable. She doesn't seek validation or approval. That's what separates her. In a world where so many are addicted to being seen, to being liked, to being accepted, she walks a different path. She doesn't dress for compliments. She doesn't speak to be applauded. She doesn't move to be noticed. Her actions, her choices, her voice, it all comes from a place deep within, a place that doesn't shift with other people's opinions. Because she knows who she is, and that knowing cannot be bought, borrowed, or built by anyone else's approval. She's not afraid to stand alone in her truth. While others might bend to fit in, she remains rooted in her principles. And when she speaks, it's not to impress, it's to express. There's no mask, no performance, no carefully constructed version of herself, curated for applause. She's not playing a part, she's living her life, her way. And she's learned that people's reactions say more about them than they do about her. Approval is fleeting, integrity is forever. She chooses integrity. This woman understands that external validation is a trap. One moment they praise you, the next they turn their backs. If your self-worth is tied to the applause, then you'll fall apart when the clapping stops, but not her. She's built something stronger. Confidence that lives in silence, pride that doesn't require permission, and peace that isn't shaken by rejection. She knows how to clap for herself. She knows how to celebrate in private, how to grow without needing an audience, how to love herself even when the world forgets to. She's learned that needing approval gives away power, because when you need someone to say you're good enough, you're putting your value in their hands. And people, they change. They get insecure. They get jealous. They project. One day you're a hero, the next you're a target. That's why she took her power back. She stopped asking, "Do you see me?" and started saying, "I see me." She stopped wondering, "Do you like me?" and started affirming, "I love who I am becoming." And that's not arrogance, it's liberation. It's freedom from the weight of trying to be everything to everyone. It's peace that comes from being exactly who she is, even if that means being misunderstood. She knows that real ones feel her energy without her having to explain it. She knows that the people who matter will respect her authenticity, not require her to shrink. So she's done shrinking. She's done seeking. She's done waiting for permission to be herself. The journey here wasn't easy. There were times when she tried to fit in, tried to gain approval, tried to be who they said she should be, but every time she betrayed herself to be accepted, something inside her broke. So she started choosing herself, quietly at first, one boundary at a time, one no at a time, one moment of silence in a room full of noise. And over time, she began to feel whole. Not because anyone told her she was, but because she stopped needing them to. She walks into rooms now with presence, not because she's the loudest, but because she's the realest. There's a strength in that kind of authenticity. She's not for everyone, and she doesn't try to be. That's the thing. When you stop chasing approval, you start attracting truth. The right people, the right energy, the right opportunities, all of it finds you when you're no longer trying to prove your worth. She knows this, she lives this, she embodies this. She doesn't measure her success by how many people cheer for her. She measures it by how aligned she feels with her purpose. She doesn't ask, "What will they think?" before making a move. She asks, "Is this right for me?" That inner compass guides her more than any applause ever could. She's led by something deeper, something the world can't always see, but something she trusts completely. Even when the world is silent, she keeps going. Even when no one claps, she keeps building. Even when no one agrees, she stays grounded, because her validation doesn't live out there, it lives within her, and that more than anything makes her untouchable. Her peace can't be manipulated or bought. It's not the kind of peace that came easy or arrived overnight. It's a peace earned in solitude, forged through fire, and protected like sacred ground. She didn't find it in the comfort of others or in fleeting distraction. She found it when the noise died down, when the chaos faded, and when she finally faced the truth of who she is. That kind of peace is deep, it's quiet, but unshakable. And because she built it from within, no one can touch it. No one can take it, no one can twist it. People have tried, they've come with charm, with promises, with sweet words designed to lure her into chaos. But she doesn't fall for pretty lies anymore. She doesn't lose herself in temporary comfort or shallow praise. She sees through manipulation because she's no longer desperate to feel good for a moment. She wants something real. And real doesn't come from gain. Real doesn't come from control. Real doesn't come from people who only love her when she's convenient. She knows this, so when someone tries to rattle her, provoke her, or pull her into their storm, she doesn't flinch. She just watches, calm, unbothered. Grounded in her peace, she's not moved by pressure or persuaded by panic. She doesn't make decisions from fear. She's learned to pause, to breathe, to listen to herself before reacting. That's what makes her powerful. Because while others are reactive, impulsive, chasing validation, or avoiding discomfort, she stands still, and in that stillness, she sees clearly. She's not clouded by noise. She's not led by ego. She's centered. And that center, it can't be accessed by just anyone. She doesn't need anyone to fix her. She fixed herself. So when someone tries to shake her confidence or make her doubt herself, it falls flat. That doesn't mean she's cold. It means she's aware. She knows what it took to get here. She remembers the nights she cried in silence, the days she felt invisible, the moments she almost gave in. And she remembers choosing herself again and again. She earned her peace with sweat, tears, and relentless self-reflection. It's not something she'll ever hand over lightly. People who are used to control, who are used to manipulating others with guilt, silence, or affection, they don't know what to do with her because their usual tactics don't work. She doesn't crumble when she's ignored. She doesn't chase when she's misunderstood. She doesn't beg to be loved. She lets people go if they need to leave, not out of indifference, but out of wisdom, because she knows peace is too expensive to trade for the wrong kind of company. She's walked away from arguments that weren't worth her breath. She's left behind situations that disturbed her energy. She's said no without explanation, and yes without needing permission. That kind of clarity scares people who depend on confusion to stay in control. But she's not afraid of being alone. She's not afraid of silence. She's not afraid of people leaving. She's more afraid of losing herself trying to please everyone else. So she protects her peace the way some people protect their pride, with boundaries, with honesty, and with silence when needed. She doesn't engage in battles just to prove a point. She's not interested in being right all the time. She's interested in being aligned with her values, with her truth, with her intuition. And if something or someone disrupts that alignment, she doesn't force it to work. She releases it, not because she doesn't care, but because she's already done the work to care for herself. She knows when energy feels off. She knows when something is costing her more than it's giving, and she walks away before it costs her peace. People often mistake her peace for weakness, but it's the opposite. It takes strength to be still. It takes strength to choose calm over chaos, silence over noise, peace over drama. It takes strength to rise above petty distractions and focus on the bigger picture. She doesn't get pulled into messes that aren't hers. She doesn't let the moods of others dictate how she feels. Her peace is her anchor. It keeps her steady when everything else tries to shake her. She's rebuilt herself in silence and strength. Not once, but many times. And she didn't make a show of it. No announcements, no cries for attention, just a quiet, steady decision to get back up. Every time life tried to break her, she went inward. She didn't need a spotlight to find her power. She found it in the shadows, in the long nights when the world had gone to sleep, but her mind was wide awake, trying to piece together what had fallen apart. It's not easy to rebuild yourself when no one's watching, when no one's cheering you on or offering a hand. It's in those lonely moments that character is shaped, and she knows that better than anyone. She's had to pull herself out of places no one even knew she was in. She smiled in public and broke in private. She held conversations while her heart was still learning how to beat again. But she never stopped showing up. Not for the world, but for herself. Each time she was knocked down, she didn't look around for someone to save her. She knew the rescue was already inside her. So she sat with the pain. She studied it. She let it teach her. She didn't numb it. didn't run from it. She faced it head on, and from that confrontation, she built something new. Not something that looked the same as before, but something stronger, something wiser, something more resilient. The strength she carries now wasn't inherited. It wasn't handed to her. It came from those moments when she thought she had nothing left and still chose to try again. She didn't rebuild to prove a point. She rebuilt because she couldn't let life win. Because something inside her refused to stay broken, even when breaking felt easier. That something is what makes her different. It's what gives her presence, even in silence. It's why people feel her strength before she ever says a word. And the silence she moved through wasn't empty. It was full of reflection, full of decisions, full of moments where she had to let go of the version of herself that was built around pain. She had to unlearn the habits that came from survival and choose ones that came from healing. That's the hardest kind of work, the kind that no one sees, the kind that doesn't come with recognition or applause, just quiet evolution. She's had to forgive herself for trusting the wrong people, for staying too long in places that didn't love her right, for dimming her light to make others comfortable. But instead of holding on to regret, she turned it into wisdom. She used it to build new boundaries, new standards, a new sense of self. And now, that self doesn't bend the way it used to. She's flexible, yes, but she does not anymore. When people see her now, they see the confidence, the calm, the composure. But what they don't always see is the process. The tears cried behind closed doors, the prayers whispered at 2 a.m., the journal pages filled with pain and hope and determination. That's where the real work happened. That's where the foundation was laid. Not in a moment, but over time, slowly, quietly, intentionally. She learned how to be her own foundation, her own support system, her own light. She learned that even when the world is silent, her voice still matters. Even when no one claps, her progress is still real. And even when it feels like she's starting from scratch, she's never really starting over. Because she's bringing everything she's already learned with her. That's why her strength feels different. Because it's not loud or aggressive. It's grounded. It's calm. It's unshakable. Because it was built in places that tested everything she thought she knew about herself. And she passed those tests not by pretending to be strong, but by becoming strong. Through experience, through pain, through choice. She doesn't need to tell the world how far she's come. You can feel it in how she moves, in the way she holds space, in the way she speaks without needing to be heard, in the way she carries herself like someone who knows exactly what it took to be here, and who refuses to go back to who she was before she knew her own power. Solitude has made her self-sufficient and whole. It wasn't something she ran to at first. Like most people, she once believed that being surrounded was the same as being fulfilled. But over time, life is a way of showing you the truth. She started to see that not all company is comforting, and not all silence is empty. Somewhere along the way, she chose to step back. Not because she gave up on people, but because she realized she needed to find herself without the noise of everyone else's opinions. In that solitude, she discovered who she really is. Not the version shaped by expectations, not the one molded by pressure or past relationships, but the real her, the one beneath the roles and routines. She had to strip it all away, every label, every obligation, every echo of someone else's voice telling her who to be. And in that quiet, she found something solid. She found herself. Learning to be alone didn't mean she was lonely. It meant she was growing. It meant she was finally listening to the parts of herself she used to ignore. It meant she was sitting with the uncomfortable truths, the wounds she had buried, the desires she had silenced. She let it all come up, not to dwell, but to understand. And with that understanding came a new kind of power, the kind that doesn't depend on anyone else to feel complete. She began to enjoy her own company, the peace of not having to explain herself, the freedom to think without interruption, the clarity that comes from not having to consider everyone else's opinions before making a move. There's something sacred about that kind of independence. It changes how you see the world. It changes how you show up in it. She stopped looking outward for happiness. She stopped waiting for someone to tell her she was worthy. She gave those things to herself. And when you give yourself what you used to beg others for, something shifts. You stop tolerating things that used to drain you. You stop chasing love that comes with conditions. You stop needing people to stay just so you won't feel alone. Because you no longer fear your own presence. You've made peace with it. You've made it home. Solitude taught her that she can handle her own healing. That she doesn't need to be rescued. That she doesn't need to be constantly surrounded to feel seen. Because she sees herself. And once you see yourself clearly, you stop settling for being half seen by others. You stop dimming your light so someone else can shine. You stop pretending to be small just to make others feel comfortable. Now, she walks through the world differently. Her steps are sure. Her choices are deliberate. She no longer moves to be chosen. She moves because she has chosen herself. And that self, it's whole. Not perfect, not without scars, but whole. Complete. Enough. She doesn't rely on someone else to fill the quiet. She doesn't panic when plans fall through. She knows how to take herself on a walk, how to sit in stillness and breathe, how to create joy out of the smallest moments. She knows how to pour into herself when she feels low, how to pause and reset instead of running away. That kind of knowing doesn't come from books. It doesn't come from advice. It comes from experience, from time, from choosing again and again to stay with yourself when it would be easier to distract or detach. People often ask her how she stays so calm, so clear, so unbothered. They don't always understand the path that brought her here. They don't see the years she spent shedding old skins, learning to love the parts of herself she was once ashamed of, finding beauty in being enough without needing to be everything for everyone. They don't know that her peace was earned, that her wholeness was fought for. She no longer waits for life to give her permission. She gives it to herself. She no longer asks if she's doing enough. She knows that being in alignment is more important than being busy. She doesn't fear missing out because she's not missing herself anymore. And that's the key. She found herself in solitude. And once you find yourself, really find yourself, everything else becomes optional. She's not afraid to walk away from anything that costs her peace. That's the line she's drawn, the standard she lives by, and it's not negotiable. It wasn't always this way. There was a time when she would stay too long, try too hard, hold on too tightly. A time when she confused loyalty with self-abandonment, when she tolerated chaos because she thought love meant endurance, when she mistook noise for connection. But growth teaches you what peace actually feels like. And once you've felt it, once you've experienced the stillness after the storm, you'll do anything to protect it. She's walked away from people she once thought she couldn't live without. She's left situations that looked good on paper, but felt wrong in her spirit. She's said goodbye to comfort zones that no longer aligned with her growth. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Because peace isn't just a preference for her, it's survival. It's clarity. It's the foundation that holds her together when the world tries to pull her apart. And she knows with everything in her that nothing and no one is worth disturbing that foundation. She pays attention to how people make her feel. Not just what they say, not just what they offer, but how her soul responds in their presence. Does her body tense? Does her energy shrink? Does her voice get quiet? She listens to those signs now. She honors them. Because she understands that peace isn't always loud and obvious. It's subtle. It whispers. It nudges. And ignoring it comes at a cost she's no longer willing to pay. She doesn't chase anymore. If someone pulls away, she lets them. If energy feels off, she trusts it. If something feels forced, she releases it. That's not detachment, it's discernment. It's the wisdom that comes from knowing her worth. She doesn't argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding her. She doesn't explain her boundaries to those who were never going to respect them. She's learned that walking away is sometimes the most powerful statement you can make. The old version of her would have begged, would have over-explained, would have stayed, just to prove she could make it work. But now she chooses herself over and over again, without guilt, without apology. She knows that walking away doesn't mean she didn't care. It means she finally started caring about herself just as much. It means she recognized that peace isn't found in fixing broken things. It's found in honoring when something no longer fits. She's not bitter, she's just clear. Clear about what she needs, what she values, and what she refuses to compromise. And because she's so clear, she's no longer available for half-hearted effort, for lukewarm love, for inconsistent presence. She's done entertaining things that drain her. She's done shrinking to fit into spaces that don't appreciate her fullness. She's done sacrificing her well-being for the sake of keeping the peace with others, while losing it within herself. There's a quiet strength in her now, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself. You can feel it when she walks away without looking back. You can hear it in her silence when she chooses not to engage. You can see it in her eyes when she's decided that something is no longer for her. That strength didn't come from pretending to be strong. It came from breaking, from healing, from rebuilding. It came from choosing herself in moments when it would have been easier to settle. People ask her why she's so distant now, why she keeps to herself, why her circle is so small. They don't understand that she's not isolating, she's protecting. She's preserving the peace she fought so hard to earn. She's filtering energy now, not just accepting everything that comes her way. And if that means fewer people, fewer conversations, fewer obligations, so be it. Because what she's gained in that quiet is something no one else could give her. Her center, her balance, her clarity.